The day we fought back. A school, a bulldozer, and a town's revenge. The blade of the bulldozer bit into the school's foundation, sending a shudder through the earth. Kids were still inside, their laughter turning to screams. I dropped my wrench, kicked over my workbench, and sprinted barefoot to the front gate. That was my son's classroom. Standing there in a safety vest, barking orders like she owned the world, was Linda, the HOA president. She had no idea that by noon tomorrow, her office would be a pile of rubble. This is my story, and trust me, you want to know how we got here. I'm Jack, a guy with calloused hands, worn boots, and a back that creaks when it rains. I didn't have much growing up, but when my son, Tommy, came along, 6 years old, curious, with a voice louder than a tractor, I swore he'd have better. Out here, on the edge of what the city calls discretionary investment zones, translation. You're on your own. Our kids were stuck riding buses an hour each way to a school with more metal detectors than books. When budget cuts killed arts, music, and the only decent special ed teacher, we'd had enough. So, I did what any stubborn welder with too much sawdust in his lungs would do. I built a school. Not just for Tommy, but for all the kids. The Riverside School wasn't fancy. No gym, no computer lab, just windows that opened, desks of reclaimed oak, a stove for winter, and a chalkboard big enough for dreams. It sat on a lot by the woods, near a creek bend, technically in the HOA's outer margin. Nobody had cared about that land in decades. We cleared it ourselves, dug post holes, hauled beams, painted with leftover barn paint. I even welded a weather vane shaped like a fox, kid's choice. For a while, it was perfect. MS. Clara taught science with a slingshot and a deer skull. Coach Ray made math feel like poker night. Tommy learned fractions by slicing pie, not swiping apps. Then came Linda, HOA president since last summer. She rolled in with a shiny SUV, a yappy dog, and a clipboard she wielded like a scepter. Her voice was all fire drill urgency, her smile pure condescension. She started small, fines for visible trash cans, unapproved porch swings, a nativity scene with a light-up raccoon deemed inappropriate. Then she noticed our school. "What's this structure?" she asked, squinting like it was a junkyard. "It's a schoolhouse, Linda," I said. You know, from before HOAs tried to outlaw common sense. She didn't laugh. Muttered about permits, liabilities, rogue daycare. Soon, we got a cease and desist notice, citing some dusty HOA rule nobody'd enforced in years. It gave us 10 days to shut down or face fines. We tried reasoning. Parents begged. Kids drew pictures of the school with smiling sons. Linda didn't budge. I thought we had time. I was wrong. Tuesday morning, a bulldozer roared in. No warning, no call, just two guys in vests and a stack of cones with HOA stickers. The school was in session. Tommy was inside with 8 other kids, learning about clouds from MS. "Clara." I sprinted from my auto shed, threw myself in front of the machine, yelling to stop. The driver did, confused. Thought it was an abandoned shed, he mumbled, glancing at his papers. Linda arrived, filming on her phone, saying, "This is what happens when you break rules." She didn't see the kids crying, a mom collapsing beside a crushed lunchbox, a mess. Clara sobbing. She just muttered, "Non-compliant architecture." That night, we salvaged what we could, books, the chalkboard, the fox weather vane, laying it in my truck like a funeral. Tommy stared at the empty lot, holding back tears like a man in a boy's body. Explaining to a 7-year-old why someone bulldozed his school broke me. He whispered, "Well, MS." Clara still read us stories. I lied and said yes. That's when I knew this wasn't about rules. It was war. Linda called the news, standing by the rubble in a blazer, calling our school an unlicensed facility that endangered children. Half the town bought it. The other half was furious. I tried the city zoning board. They said the land was not their problem. The county called it an internal dispute. Lawyers quoted fees I couldn't afford. Linda had sealed every crack, filing complaints claiming we'd built covertly. But she didn't know I'd spent 20 years contracting for the city, roads, bridges, schools. I had records, contacts, favors. I called Mike, a semi-retired city planner. Told him about the bulldozer, the kids. He sighed. They did that with kids inside. We met at the records annex, digging through microfiche and old charters. Then we found it, a 1974 covenant by the original developer, Walter Grayson, stating that land for youth education was free from HOA control. Our lot was marked in blue ink. Linda hadn't just messed up, she'd violated a century-old clause. I filed an appeal with the Property Commission, citing the covenant, a map, and Mike's affidavit. Linda called it fake and threatened to sue for defamation. I laughed and got to work. I filed an injunction to stall her, got the local paper to run a story, Father Rebuilds School, Faces HOA Wrath, and sent them video of Linda smirking during the demolition. Parents rallied, held a vigil at the lot, kids waving signs like, "Learning isn't a violation." I dug deeper, finding Linda had rewritten bylaws without votes, approved the demolition with her husband and the treasurer, both tied to the contractor, and planned a dog park on our land. At the county hearing, I laid out the covenant, played the video, and handed over letters from parents about their kids' trauma. The judge flinched, calling Linda's actions negligent, possibly criminal. Her lawyer grabbed her arm as she tried to object. I left with a stay order, permission to rebuild, and land forever free from HOA control. But I wasn't done. Linda thought she could erase us with a bulldozer and a rulebook. I'd show her what real demolition looked like. I leased a lot by the HOA office, a junk pile and used since '92. Filed permits to restore a rotting shed, turning it into my war room. Inside, I pinned up Linda's violations, finding a kid for a Pokemon backpack, banning a punna doormat, charging an elderly vet for driveway cracks. Neighbors poured in, a dad fined for a tricycle, a widow billed for unpainted trim. I taught them to fight back, file appeals. Then I found the jackpot. The HOA office itself was illegal. Built on a realtor's kiosk, it violated zoning, sat too close to a greenway, and lacked proper permits. I sued under the same covenant, won an injunction in 7 days. Linda didn't show. I bought 2 bulldozers, a used Komatsu, and a beat-up deer. Tuesday morning, I rolled up in a vest, permits in hand. Linda screeched into the lot, half-styled, screaming, "This is criminal." I handed her the paperwork. "You got 2 options. Move it or I will." She called someone, maybe the mayor, maybe her stylist. Didn't matter. Ray drove the second bulldozer, grinning like it was Christmas. We tore through the office, concrete crumbling, siding stacking like firewood. Neighbors cheered, kids on scooters, a guy with popcorn. Someone played Sweet Home Alabama. Linda stood frozen, her clipboard useless. I patted the Komatsu like a loyal dog and walked home through high fives. The HOA collapsed. Linda was voted out, move away, sold her house at loss. An audit revealed she'd faked her degree, skimmed HOA funds, and funneled contracts to her cousin's company. The neighborhood dissolved the HOA, forming a community council that vowed never to let a school be bulldozed again. The court awarded us damages, 6 figures, enough to rebuild Riverside bigger, better, official. We broke ground in 6 weeks, with permits, surveyors, even a fire marshal's blessing. MS. Clara cried over the new library. Ray bought a fancy whistle. Kids painted walls, signed a beam sealed in the roof. The town showed up, contractors, teens, grandparents with casseroles. The day we reopened, balloons flew, a band played, and Tommy ran through the doors, eyes bright. A granite plaque read, "Built by the people, forged by fire." As I sipped coffee on my porch, watching the sunrise over the school, a rooster, our rogue mascot, Feather McGraw, strutted across the yard. We thought he'd died in the demolition, but there he was, crowing like he owned the place. The kids chased him, laughing. Linda thought she could break us with bylaws and bulldozers. She forgot you can't crush grit, can't regulate heart, can't stop a town with a rooster named Feather McGraw. What do you think? Was Jack's bulldozer justice too far, or did Linda deserve it? How would you handle injustice in your community? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's debate violence, fairness, and standing up for what's right. Your voice matters.